6 p.m. I call to order the City of Emeryville.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 6 p.m. and I call to order the special closed session. This meeting is being conducted in person at 1333 Park Avenue, Emeryville, California. Please call roll.
Councilmember Mora? Here. Councilmember Pryforce?
Here.
Councilmember Welch? Here. Vice Mayor Solomon? Here. And Mayor Carr?
Present.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments? Seeing and hearing none, I will move on to closed session in the conference room.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
It is 6:35 p.m. Are there any items to report out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor Carr. There were no reportable actions taken in closed session tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. We are now moving on to the 6:30 p.m. special study session. It is now 6:36 p.m. and I call to order the special study session and regular meeting of the City Council. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mora?
Here.
Councilmember Pryforce?
Here.
Councilmember Welch? Here. Vice Mayor Solomon? Here. And Mayor Carr?
Present.
Thank you.
Is there a presenter for that? Hi, Chad. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Chadwick Smalley, Community Development Director. And we'll give a moment for my slide deck to start. Thank you, April, and go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're here for a study session on the Arts Center project. And mindful of the time, I'm going to buzz through this background really quick for you all, because you've all heard it before. But in March 2006, we acquired the property right behind City Hall, 30,000 square foot building for the purpose of building an arts center. Through the ensuing 14 or so years, various plans were advanced to do that. And the most recent attempt was a land disposition development agreement with a developer, which we terminated in October of 2022. In 2023, July, we held a study session to restart the project, confirmed that the project's objectives were in place, and put together an implementation process at that time, and developed a task force. There was a request to impanel a task force to advise staff and the City Council on how to proceed. In February of 24, we gave an update where the City Council approved a contract with Artist Love and Jean Johnstone Consulting. Representatives are here today. We'll get into their work in a moment. And we also talked about the Arts Center Advisory Group, which was responsive to the request for a task force. In November of 24, we held another study session where we reviewed a feasibility study that looked at whether new construction or adaptive reuse of the existing building was the most cost-efficient way to proceed. It turned out that they're the same, roughly, and that there was not nearly enough capital funds to build the project as envisioned then, to the tune of a $50 or $60 million project. With that in mind, the direction was to secure the services of a fundraising consultant to evaluate the potential for this project to receive some philanthropical support so that we could complete a funding plan and to understand sort of the funding landscape. We went ahead and brought a contract back with CCS for that fundraising strategy in September of '25, so about 6 months ago. We also at that time presented the operational models analysis that was prepared by Artists Love Gene Johnstone Consulting. Next slide, please. So here we are 6 months later, and two things have been completed. First, the organizational structure and implementation report has been completed by Artists Love Gene Johnstone Consulting. What this study does is it takes a closer, deeper dive into what kind of operating model is best for this type of project and for its goals. The core findings are that it's best structured, this arrangement is best structured as a city-owned facility, but is operated by a nonprofit entity. It's also best conceived and operated as shared civic and cultural infrastructure, with that being sort of the guiding principle behind decisions that are made. The capital and real estate risk needs to remain with the city for the operational entity to be sustainable. Organizational development should proceed independently from completion of that facility, and this is a new finding, and that a pre-organizational phase is recommended prior to incorporation of the actual nonprofit entity. That pre-organizational phase should be supported by specialized nonprofit expertise in governance and organizational development. Next slide, please. We also completed the fundraising feasibility and planning study. Its core findings are that Emeryville is recognized as a home for artists and that public art is valued by the city, and people that were interviewed are excited by the concept of establishing Emeryville as an arts destination with the Arts Center as its sort of core manifestation of that. Gallery and education space was favored by study participants. That is over performing arts space, which was somewhat of a surprising finding. However, participants expressed a lot of concerns on the scale of the immediate need without an existing donor base and without some kind of programming, and that questioned the sustainability of this project with those things being absent. The response rates to CCS's study were lower than they typically experience, and the bottom line conclusion is that the $50 million goal is not feasible as currently envisioned. However, CCS also says that there is an incremental path to an arts center, and they go into that in the next slide. The recommendations out of these studies, the key recommendations, from Artists Love Gene Johnstone Consulting is that we use a phased implementation approach where we first get that expertise in nonprofit governance and organizational development. Through them, establish a non-fiduciary and time-limited steering group, which works with the consultant and staff, city staff, to secure a fiscal sponsor and develop a profile for a founding executive director for this new organization. When that director is recruited and appointed, that director participates in recruiting founding board members, which are specifically and intentionally selected in part on the basis of their ability to move this project forward, whether in terms of time, expertise, or ability to contribute. Then lastly, formal agreements between the city, I'm sorry, I skipped a step. After the founding board is identified, then incorporation of the nonprofit entity occurs, and that organization exits fiscal sponsorship, and it stands on its own 2 feet, and it starts to run pilot programming in spaces that are found or available or even not physical, potentially. Thirdly, the last phase is then the formal agreements between the city and that entity for development and operation of the permanent physical facility that meets the needs that were proven up through the development of those pilot programs. CCS recommendations are that we need more specificity in programming and operations in order to get philanthropic support for this project. And they, too, recommend a phased approach that's focused on programming and leadership infrastructure. The key finding is that they derived from all of the interviews with potential fundraisers was that while it may seem like the best course of action is to commit to finding other funding sources to make this $50 million version of the project a reality, or determine a new scale and downsize the project and pick some kind of phase to build now within the existing budget, the feedback received from study participants, and that is mostly those folks that were identified as potential contributors, indicates otherwise. Next slide, please. So what's interesting about this is these two studies are coming from different perspectives. One is coming from a purely more general evaluation of what the community has done and said, what work has been done in the past, what the other arts centers in the area, how they're configured, how they were established, how they operate now, and right-sizing our center so that it fits and is sustainable. That's Art is Love, Gene Johnstone Consulting's work. Separately, CCS is looking at this purely from a financial philanthropic standpoint. Can this thing raise money? And they both arrive separately, different perspectives, at the same conclusion, which is we should build the organization first and then the facility. And that is a significant change from the way we have pursued this project in the last 10 years or so. Our prior attempts at this have been predominantly looking at what can we do with this site? What building can we build to make it an arts center? And the question that always arises when we have these conversations is, well, sure, we can build an arts center that has things that we all want, but who's running it? And what are they doing in that space? What is the benefit that they're delivering to the community? It was one of the criticisms of the last effort, the developer-driven effort that we went through, was that it was too commercial. It had too much co-working space in it. It was a commercial project with a gallery tacked on. That's reflective of the fact that there is not an established operating entity, or there wasn't then, an operating entity that had programming to plug into the space. And so the Art Center Advisory Group, reviewing these studies that we just discussed, 2 meetings and quite a bit of discussion, arrived at the following recommendations for this staff and city council. One is to establish the criteria for the individuals on that time-limited, non-fiduciary advisory steering group. 2, they recommend allocating capital funds for the initial startup cost of that operating entity, estimated by Gene Johnstone Consulting at between $350,000 and $550,000 per year, primarily for costs of the founding executive director. For a 2-year period, with milestones would be established to ensure that the city's investment is resulting in an organization that is actually coming into its own and being a sustainable organization that is community responsive and delivering programming and moving us towards an arts center. Lastly, they recommend we continue to explore additional capital funding strategies, development strategies, and partners to make that happen, in collaboration with this founding executive director and the founding board. I'll note, and there's a footnote on this slide, that of the $10.6 million that are budgeted in the capital improvement program for this project, approximately $5.4 million of that is general capital funds. What that means is that it's not bond funds, it's not encumbered or restricted to be used for physical construction. It could be, should the city council wishes, it could be reprogrammed for these early year operating costs. Next slide, please. So that brings us to this. It's actually a pretty, it's a short question in a way. It's a simple question, but it's a departure from what we've done in the past, and it's why we're back here today to ask for the city council's general direction. I am looking to solicit from the city council direction on the general approach because, as I mentioned, this is different. We're talking about a different pathway at this point. Does the city council support the recommendation to proceed with this phased approach, beginning with the temporary advisory group and all of those things to establish the entity prior to designing and building a building? Does the city council support the concept of reallocation of a portion of the capital funds to these costs for this and the startup of this entity? And do you have any other considerations or concerns or recommendations? I will say that this has been, for me personally, and I think a lot of the members that interact with this project, has been a learning process. We have engaged expertise around this and have come to the conclusion that this is the pathway. This solves a lot of the issues that we have with understanding who is going to operate it. Nobody wants the city to operate an arts center. It isn't necessarily even appropriate for a public entity to operate the arts center. You want freedom of expression. And so it begs the question, well, then who is operating it? And then furthermore, all of these operating entities that run these kinds of facilities rely to some degree on philanthropic support. If we stand here today and we're unable to secure that philanthropic support because we have no operating entity, you can see the dilemma. Some startup capital needs to be invested into the organizational and operational infrastructure to allow that track record to be built, because then the operating entity has the ability to attract philanthropic support, which then reduces the reliance on the city in the long run. It also allows us to craft a physical facility that meets the needs of this fledgling organization and the pilot programming that it is running, so that we don't build a performing arts center, invest millions of dollars in a performing arts center when maybe that's not what's viable. This allows us to test the market, so to speak, for the cultural programming. With that, I'm happy to answer any question. These are the questions I have for the council. All of this, assuming you do want us to move forward with this new direction, these are all things that are going to come back to you. The exact format of how the agreements work, the funding, the amounts, are all things that are subject to future city council action. So the details are not figured out yet, because I first need to understand whether you're okay with the conceptual level of this approach. I do have folks from Artists Love, Gene Johnstone Consulting, and CCS all here to speak to their individual studies and recommendations if you want to hear from them. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Council members, any questions? Yes, you're recognized, Councilmember Mora.
So I appreciate the overview and the kind of the introduction of this concept, the idea that you need the operating entity and programming to some extent and donor base in place, and those kind of they all kind of rely on each other as well. You don't, without the operating entity, you don't have the it's hard to get a donor-based fundraising operation. So there's kind of like a chicken and the egg situation there. But I also think it's probably both of those efforts are also, it's also difficult to do those without a physical art center, right? So I know that that's kind of a parallel effort, and I was kind of hoping, maybe we can talk about how those kind of pollinate each other, those efforts. So like this executive director, what would be their role in helping us get the viable approach towards the actual arts center? Understanding that where we are now, there's this $50 million shortfall, but presumably we might end up with a solution that's could even be cheaper than that, especially if it's part of some other activity or construction. So could you comment more on kind of how the organization and that director will then help us set us up for success for the actual physical arts center?
I think I see it as sort of a push and pull at the same time, right? On the one hand, we have a shortfall for this envisioned $50 to $60 million project. So the pull, so to speak, is starting to build that infrastructure that can actually start to build a donor base that can contribute meaningfully to that shortfall. On the other hand, the pull the other way is to downsize the project, or to only build those elements first that are most sustainable and are most desirable to the community. That is something that I personally don't want to make the determination on, whether it be a gallery or a performing arts space or classroom space, and that be the thing, or a gallery of a certain size, or any of those things, to try to value engineer this into a pre-existing budget. I would rather do that in consultation with this group that has been picked specifically to deliver the Arts Center in a way that supports the community. And I don't know if Jean has anything to add to that. Okay, great. I don't want to put words in their mouths, so I have to be somewhat careful.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
Any further questions, council members? Vice Would you like to reserve it for discussion, or would you like to ask it as a question? No, I can reserve it. All right. Any public comment? Thank you. Public comment, please, on the study session. Welcome.
Hello, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I'm one of the people working as a volunteer on the, what's the name of our committee? Our Arts Center Advisory Group. And I ran an art center in Berkeley called Kala Art Institute for 48 years, and I'm still on the board. And so I have a good experience of what it means to start from scratch, basically, and develop an institution. I think it has been an education for staff and other partners. And I think that a nonprofit organization, yes, it will need some sort of place to act, at least an office and maybe a little more than that, maybe a warehouse that could be leased for not too much, where a lot of, it could be the temporary contemporary, if you know what I mean. And that's a quote from Rick Tejada Flores, who really believes that sometimes that's where you get your juice, is in starting off things in a rougher way, not a totally refined yet. And I wanted to say that over the years, we did work out a great formula of having 50% donated, both from individuals and from grants, government and city and philanthropic organizations. And the other 50%, we pretty much earned our way by teaching classes and selling artwork, doing lots of projects that brought in income, but also supported artists along the way. So
Thank you
just
for
so
your
there is
comment.
hope, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Any further public comments on this study session? Welcome, former Mayor Donahue.
I was in your seats when we killed the last idea we had. We had the space behind this building ready to go with a developer, and the results just were getting so many different segments of the arts community and the larger community upset because it wasn't meeting their expectations. Well, we didn't have a way to bring everyone together to figure out expectations, to have a clearer idea of what we wanted. And so I think that what's before you is a good idea, to have us go through this period of figuring out what we really want and what then we can try and arrive at. So I recommend you go ahead with this approach.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this item?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Jean Goldman. I'm also on the advisory committee for the Arts Center. I've been involved in the project for probably 10 or 12 years. And I just want to say, we have a lot of the programming in place. It's not called the Arts Center, and it's not called, programming for the Arts Center. But if you think about it, the celebration of the arts is a key element of the Arts Center. The new gallery that was built is a component of the Arts Center. The work that ABG is doing, promoting the arts in Emeryville, that's all part of the programming. So I think there's a lot that's in place that's not pulled together but it is the programming that will eventually go into the art center. Okay, and there's a lot more. So I support the, what Chad is proposing, and I hope you can agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any further comment on this item?
Hi, City Council. My name is Vicki Sewell. I've been an artist here in Emeryville for about 40 years, and we've been working on this art center for about 20. And this is a big opportunity for you to make us famous, to give us an art center that will be outstanding for the East Bay. And we're little, but we're mighty, and you call us art and technology. This is a chance where if we don't have a nonprofit, we can't go to Google. We can't go to the other people and ask for money. We need money to make an art center, but we have to have an art center before we can get the money. So this lets us get an art center first. Get the nonprofit, get the director, a fundraising director that goes out and asks for money. And I need you guys, and I know you think out of the box about raising money. And that's the key thing to make the art center happen is money. And we have a chance, but we have to think who has it in the Bay Area and why would they give it to our art center? But yeah, I support this idea. Let's start. Let's do something amazing. What else do we have to do, right? Let's do something amazing now.
Thank you for your comment. Any further comments on this study session? Seeing no further comments, I will open this for discussion. Any discussion? Member Pryforce?
Sorry, there's an ant. Let me make sure it's okay. Sorry about that. Life comes first. So first, I want to thank the staff. I want to thank you, Chad, for it's one thing to say that we are a city of art and innovation, but it's another thing to approach things in an innovative manner. And I believe that that's what you guys are doing, what the city is doing. And of course, quite naturally, that the way that cities approach things, especially as it relates to development, is that you everything sort of just gets mapped out, and you go back and forth with the community. Hopefully, if you're doing it right, you actually inform the community ahead of time, and there's actual community buy-in. You figure out the materials, you figure out the contractors, and there's a start and then there's an end. And unfortunately, that's not really how things work. Definitely not in the startup world, where new businesses, new companies are made. And definitely not in the nonprofit world that takes tools from the startup world now. That the old nonprofits, the way that what we call the traditional nonprofits that were funded by the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and those institutions, that's not what works now. Just like what it is to create a new business. So I remember when the Trayvon Martin tragedy happened, and I got the idea that the education startup that I was running would create a hackathon that would focus on the question if an app could have saved Trayvon Martin's life, because he had a phone in his hand when he was stalked by George Zimmerman. And so I decided to do it. I put in my own capital, put in a little bit of the company's capital, had approval from the board, and we did it. When we did it, we got very little support. from the philanthropic community because the idea and the concept itself, it was something that was untested. And the philanthropic community, they want to see a concept, a proof of concept, a minimum viable product that is tested. And so the question for anyone who is determining funding, because I am in those rooms, that is my job. Love your stick. And what we ask is, okay, what does it take for you to teach 5 13-year-olds to play the violin? Like, how much does it actually take? Because the proposal itself can be large and talk about how much the ED, the executive director, is being paid, how much the building is going to be, those sort of things. But the funder, the donor, wants to know, what does it take for you to do this right now? To do this right now, and then as you're teaching those young ladies, what did you learn? And then that becomes your narrative. And so when we launched the hackathon, we learned a lot of things, but that was our proof of concept. And not too many people know this, but that was it. We were just going to do that one thing. We did it. The community loved it, celebrated it. It was great. And then I got a phone call because apparently there's this guy living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, who is known for wearing purple a lot, who decided that he wanted the anniversary of his album Purple Rain, that he wanted one of our hackathons to be tagged into that celebration at the Essence Festival. And then suddenly, I had to go back to my advisory board, and we had to change the entire company. And you have no idea how many times I go before foundations. I went before foundations, and I told them just that story, and they were able to sign checks for me. And that's what you need. You need a story. You need a community story. You need a proof of concept, because that's what foundations, that's what they want. They want to know, okay, well, you already have ECCL, you have buildings, you have spaces. Why aren't you doing that? Whatever it is that you want to do, why aren't you doing it? Why do you need this building, right? And so then you show them why you need the building. You say, well, we want to do this, we want to do that, because we started with this and we started with that. And so having this, the concept of it being community-centric is something that is within the narrative of most donors and most philanthropists. They know that as soon as you say that this is a community-centric center, they know that can be a public and private partnership. So if they say they don't get it, that's a lie. They get it. They know what the word community can do. So I don't know if that means changing the name or anything like that, but at least you place that in your story, that's what that is. But they want to know, what is it that the community of Emeryville, not the city, with the community of Emeryville, what is it that they can do in the meantime while the building is being built? Now, I am 1,000 steps ahead when it comes to support for this art center, to the point where I would even advocate that the next time, well, not this year, but the next time we decide to start thinking about ballot measures, that we introduce this concept to the people of Emeryville, and we say, hey, would you be okay with us putting money towards your taxpayer dollars towards this art center? And I believe that it will go well. I believe that the people of Emeryville will say, yes, we want this to happen, because you're the people of Emeryville. We need a compelling story. And in order to craft a compelling story, then we need to get it going as quickly as possible. And that is being able to build out the operational and programmatic architecture long before we put any bricks and mortars together. And so I am in support of this strategy and this approach. And what I'm asking, we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of brilliant people here in our city. You are part of our community. If there's anything that you can do to be a part of this initiative, because now we're going into programming, I want you to be a part of this programming. I want you to be a part of this narrative. I want you to be a part of this story of us building out this art center. And I look forward to meeting the new executive director. And I believe that the people of Emeryville, who are part of this community, who are part of the city of Emeryville, they want to make this happen. And I'm fully in support of that.
Thank you, Councilmember Pryforce. Councilmember Welch, you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to state briefly, I believe Chad made a very compelling argument, and we have heard from members of the public who are involved with our advisory committee that going with the operating entity first is going to be our best bet as far as being able to secure funds for our art center. And I'm in support of the concept of reallocating funds. In my mind, it's an investment on the front end, which will pay us dividends on the back end. And I feel like it's a worthy investment from us to make sure that we do not have to go another decade waiting for our art center to be built. I made the argument back when we talked about it some time ago that there are people who die waiting for this art center to become a real space and place in Emeryville, and so I'm in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Welch. Councilmember Mora.
I just wanted to echo Member Welch. I want to thank staff for putting together this concept. I have to admit, I was initially skeptical of it. It was not clear how this was going to lead to an art center. But since then, I've been better educated on it. And I really want to thank the art community for coming out and voicing their support, because I think behind any initiative, it really relies on the support and from the art community, and that the concept resonates with the art community. So with that, I'll second the motion.
There is no motion yet.
Or I'll make the motion.
Actually, I think we are just having to give direction to the staff at this time. So let me finish with the discussion.
Sure. So no motion is needed?
No, I don't believe so. Please go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I'll very briefly just say, I agree with my colleagues. I think this was, I'm glad that we, had this process, and I think this is an example of, where we can tap other people's expertise. Chad is excellent at many things, but he's not an art center expert, so we've been able to do that. And as Member Morris said, I think I appreciate the community, the arts community, which is very robust, and your time and energy making sure that we're setting this up to succeed. I will say, I know we're very early in the process. I am keen to see kind of what the plan is for, after 2 years or, whatever the initial investment is that the city's going to make, what milestones we're looking for, and not that I'm against supporting this, but I want to make sure that I know that the intention right now is not for the city to support this forever. So how are we getting there? I know a lot of work will go into that. I do think what I'm hearing, and I think this matches my expectation as well, is that it would be great to have a nonprofit organization who's a value multiplier in the city and is not replacing the current efforts, but is unifying them, and to the extent that they want to be unified, and supporting them in the ways that they need to be supported, and also building an art center in that space is ultimately our goal, for a home for that. So working towards that goal, to continue to have that in our minds, I think is my intention, and I think this is aligned with that. So thank you, and yeah, there's no motion, but I'll second the agreement of my colleagues.
Are there any further comments or for discussion of this item? Okay, if not, I will, Councilmember Pryforce.
So there's an amazing nonprofit, ACRS, in Seattle. I went there to evaluate it, and ACRS was an amazing program. It's still an amazing program. And one of the things that I found that made it strikingly different than a lot of the programs that I was evaluating was that ACRS, in order for it to be built, it had to use it used the model of a medical health clinic. So it was a medical health clinic that predominantly served Chinese immigrants and Chinese families. And so they were mostly seniors. So it was a medical health clinic, and what they did architecturally was that they built an after-school and youth program around the health clinic. And so that health clinic was being funded mostly some grants, but a lot of it was government dollars through Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, those sort of things. And so so it was a part of the design of ACRS to have it so that the seniors would come into the health clinic, and just as they're waiting for their doctors, they would watch. I mean, they would look at the artwork of the young people, and the young people are actually immigrants from other parts of Asia. So this is a new population of Asian young people who the predominantly Chinese seniors who are being served by the health clinic had no real interactions with, except for how the community center was designed. And so then the seniors, and they had a great a community board. So some of the seniors being served by the health clinic they were also a part of the decision-making practices for ACRS. So the seniors then felt empathetic and connected to these young people who they had no formal relationship with, and so together they created something really amazing. I use that story to just emphasize that what we consider art, that to make this successful, that I encourage this community, those of you who have been leading this, to think in imaginative and innovative ways. For example, think about art therapy as this being a vehicle for art therapy, that Emeryville could be the leader in art therapy in the region. And so those who have both a clinical background and also an artistic background could be hosted by this community center. And then that introduces you to an entire set of funds. And that's what philanthropists want to see. They want to see if it in the programming, which is the reason why leading with the programming is so important, that in your programming that you're thinking in ways of how do you serve the public, and that this becomes something more than just what it has been the past 20 years. And so I definitely encourage you all to think in a myriad of ways on how you want to deliver the art center to the public in ways that would be attractive and compelling for those who just want an excuse to be able to donate and support our young people and our artists and our elders and our seniors and everyone. So yeah, so that's what I encourage. Thank you.
Council members, any further discussion on this study session item? If there is none, I would like to make a few comments. First of all, I think this is a good idea to the startups usually do this. They usually have an organization in place before they go forward and establish a building or put in more funding. That's what is usually done, and I think this is the concept that is currently being followed, and I'm hoping that it will lead to a lot of success. Also, I'm wondering, I do agree with the Vice Mayor about establishing measurable milestones, and I would like to see these kind of milestones. I know that Jean Goldman mentioned that there's a framework already in progress that needs to be pulled together in order to make this a organized success, which I have no doubt it will be. But at the same time, I think it would be a good idea to see how we can evaluate that because of the fiscal condition of this city. Spending that kind of money upfront in a startup, I think we need to be responsible about it and take a responsible approach. So I would like to see those measurable milestones and how we can evaluate those and set those up for like maybe long-term financial discussion or sustainability. As you said, that we can discuss this item as we move forward and progress with it. So there's going to be initial seed money. And I'm also wondering if there were loan options discussed, or is this just money that's coming out of that fund for clarification purposes?
We haven't discussed loan at the options at this point, and I think there's a strong case to be made that burdening a fledgling organization with debt would probably not at this stage be prudent. But to your point, we definitely will be coming back with, and whether that's in the format of a study session or action, depends. But those milestones will be well established, because I too am very sensitive to putting this kind of capital out there for something. We want to make sure we get material progress delivered.
All right, thank you for that clarification. And one of the things that was raised was we need the money. We need to raise the money, and that was emphasized by one of the public commentators. Appreciate that comment. One of the things that makes art districts successful, where I've seen them being cultural destinations, are local businesses and transportation access all work together in a holistic manner. So as we consider the phased approach to the arts center, it may be also useful for us to think about how transportation and economic development strategies, including along key corridors like 40th Street, can help support the flow of visitors and commerce that will make the arts center thrive. It will pull more traffic into the city if we are going to want a thriving arts center. So these are considerations that I'm hoping everyone will be taking into account when considering this being a city of art and innovation, or trying to make it a destination city. If there are no further comments, I think you have direction for this item, and we can adjourn this item at this time. It is now 7:22 p.m. I adjourn the study session, and I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of Emeryville. All present for the study session are still present. Please note, I am amending the final agenda to include another item, 4.3, as the Women's History Month proclamation. Please let me know if there is approval of the final agenda with this amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Welch. Please take vote.
Councilmember Mora.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce.
Aye.
Councilmember Welch.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Solomon.
Aye.
And Mayor Carr.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Special orders for the day. Item 4.1 is the Economic Development Advisory Committee's annual report on committee goals, principles, and accomplishments for calendar year 2025 and proposed committee priorities for calendar year 2026. Welcome, Mary Lou Tierkoff.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Carr and Vice Mayor Solomon and council people. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm the chair of the Emeryville Development Advisory Committee, AKA the EDAC. And it's great to be back giving another annual report. Next. First of all, our EDAC priorities and goals. The role of the EDAC is to provide input and recommendations regarding city policies and priorities as they relate to the city's economic development priorities and strategies. Just to note, our strategic plan for the EDAC was, when it was first formed, was aligned with the city's priorities, and we continue to update that as things change. Next. First of all, our EDAC, okay, first of all, our accomplishments in 2025. Our major priorities for 2025 were to develop a Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC, small business support program, and to continue implementing our marketing program. In January of 25, we continued to engage with Northwestern University as they updated us on their small business needs assessment, which had started at the beginning of the year. And then in July, EDAC reviewed the findings of the BIPOC business needs assessment presented by Northwestern University faculty. The city reaffirmed its BIPOC small business support program during their March 2025 strategic planning session as part of their multi-year goal, having a dynamic and growing businesses program. In September of 1925, the EDAC reviewed our findings and pilot program recommended by, and recommended to City Council that they approve of the BIPOC Small Business Support Pilot Program. The pilot program was approved by City Council in November of 2025. And this pilot program is based on the recommendations in the needs assessment and is intended to be a starting point to build the capacity within the city to really serve the BIPOC small business community. So then our second major priority was the implementation of the Emeryville marketing plan. In March of 25, based on brand audit, insight gathering, and website possibilities, the EDAC reviewed several draft design concepts for the marketing program. And then in July, 510 Media, our marketing team, updated the EDAC as we reviewed the final marketing program design. And then towards the end of 2025, we reviewed the final website design, and 510 Media continued to work on stories and content for that. Next. Other 2025 accomplishments. Our other priorities included continued collaboration with Emeryville Commerce Connection, collaboration with Rotten City Cultural District Program, and support of the Arts Center project. We received updates all year long on the growth and programs of Emeryville's new business organization, the ECC, who celebrated its first anniversary at Flores Casino and Bar in March of 2025. And their second anniversary is coming up this March, next week. The ECC continues to produce monthly networking events, has planned the first ever Emeryville Restaurant Week, and has doubled its membership since January of 2025. And for those who may not know, the ECC started from EDAC and the City of Emeryville's Biz Nexus networking events and was handed over to ECC in March of 2024. EDAC received updates from the RCCD and the Arts Center throughout 2025. EDAC coordinated with the RCCD to keep each other updated on projects and promotions, as well as with the ECC, with whom RCCD shares events and information, and it's published in the ECC newsletter. EDAC also received a presentation on the city's business license tax modernization in 2025. Next. Our top priorities for 2026. Our first priority is our BIPOC small business support. Our pilot program is in progress and is designed to support BIPOC small businesses and solicit additional feedback. And we're going to do analysis on the feedback as we go along and keep changing the program as needed. And then we'll have intentional outreach that will uncover more of the business community's needs. There's new businesses, there's existing businesses, and we will have different methods for reaching out to all of those, or staff will, actually. As we proceed, new insights will be incorporated into the program. Then our second priority is our marketing program. As we implement marketing strategies in 2026, we'll launch the website that tells the story of Emeryville. And what is that? What is Emeryville? Emeryville is a complete community, the center of art and innovation. Website content will tell the stories of people, companies, and organizations who have created this image and continue to do so. And we'll launch the social media marketing campaign this year to drive traffic to the new website. We expect more visibility for Emeryville and messages that help the business community understand the benefits of locating in Emeryville. Next, other 2026 priorities. EDAC will focus on small business support in general and continue its collaboration with the Emeryville Commerce Connection in developing membership and addressing the needs of the business community. We will continue our relationship with City Cultural District programs, including exploration of methods to continue these programs after the state grant funds are exhausted. And of course, we will continue to support the Arts Center project. We also will continue discussions of activities to reduce commercial vacancies and explore ways to help businesses with security. That's always ongoing. Next. And in conclusion, our EDAC was an engaged and productive advisory board in 2025 and into 2026. We expect 2026 to be significant for economic development activities in Emeryville, with the launch of EDAC's marketing program, the growth of the Emeryville Commerce Connection, and the first ever Emeryville Restaurant Week, and continuance of the Rotten City Cultural District programs. These initiatives offer great opportunities for collaboration that will benefit Emeryville's economy. And the EDAC is excited to be part of this work. And I'd like to thank Chad Smalley for his fearless leadership of the EDAC. And to the EDAC members, some of them are here, what I love is that you all are loyal, you take your jobs seriously, and are reflective in your assessments of our projects. Plus, we do have a little bit of fun. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to present EDAC's 2026 annual report. Any questions?
Any questions, council members? You're recognized, Councilmember Pryforce.
Thank you for the presentation and for all your work with the EDAC, and give my thanks to the EDAC committee members. So I have a very targeted, specific question around the BIPOC business support. Is Bank Club included?
I'm sure they will be.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because one of my critiques about it was that it's not just businesses that are owned and operated by those who fit the category of BIPOC, but it's also those businesses that perhaps majority are employing BIPOC communities, and those businesses that cater to specifically to BIPOC communities. So that's all my questions. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions, council members? Okay, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item 4.2, Public Art Committee Annual Report on Committee Goals, Principles, and Accomplishments for Calendar Year 2025 and Proposed Committee Priorities for Calendar Year 2026. Welcome, Trin.
Most people don't go looking for public art. They encounter it on their way to work, waiting for the bus, or as they're walking through their neighborhood. Over the past year, the Public Art Committee has worked to make those everyday moments even more memorable. And tonight I'll walk through what was installed in 2025 and what's coming up next. Before I begin, though, I do want to thank the Public Art Committee members and the city staff, Amber Evans, who makes this work possible. This is, of course, a volunteer committee, and our dedication is what keeps Emeryville's public art program active and growing. So this year, our focus was bringing art into everyday spaces across the city. This is our 40th Street Scape project, and this is our largest initiative in 2025. One of our most comprehensive public art efforts that's currently underway. And through 6 workshops with residents and school children and over 145 participants, it helped shape the designs that inspired Emeryville's local flora and fauna. So the result will be more than 30 integrated installations from wayfinding elements to sculptures, and it'll be embedded directly into the streetscape. So this project really reflects not just public art, but community-created identity. As we continue to support local artists through our visual arts program, in 2025, our installations included large-scale murals, a mural and sculptural birdhouses along the Greenway. And those should be populated by some nesting birds pretty soon, if not by now. But programs like this allow local artists to shape how Emeryville looks and how it feels in everyday spaces. Each year, the Purchase Award expands the city's permanent and vast art collection. This year, we added 2 works by Steve Center, and it's now installed in the public-facing civic spaces. One of our most visible programs is the Sharon Wilshire Bus Shelter Series, and it transforms everyday transit stops into a small gallery across the city. This year, we completed Phase 7 and launched Phase 8, selecting 9 artists for the 3-year exhibition cycle. There we go. We can skip through that one. There we go. So public art also grows through partnerships. We received a donated work from one of our PAC members while she was completing her Rotten City Cultural District residency, further expanding the city's collection here. And the neighborhood convergence restoration remains a priority. While the project was deferred due to coordination with a transportation project, and the revised plan includes some preservation and some visibility of the artwork, this positions the project really for a stronger long-term impact. And going on to our social media, please follow us if you don't already. We launched our social media presence to better highlight the collection and engage the community. And looking ahead, So looking into, I think, can we do the next one? There we go. So looking ahead in 2026, we will continue the Visual Arts Grant Program, complete the installation of the 40th Street streetscape works, advance the neighborhood convergence restoration, expand our artist residencies, and establish a maintenance contract to care for our vast collection. And, yep, so we covered that one. Yep. And so we covered a lot here. I know we have a lot of beautiful slides to look at. Next one. Okay, so and we can close here. So public art is one of our ways that our great city expresses its identity. So we're very proud of the progress made in 2025 and look forward to continuing to bring art into everyday spaces across Emeryville. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions, council members? There are no questions. Councilmember Pryforce.
Hi, thank you for all you're doing with the art committee. Please greet them on my behalf, on my colleagues' behalf. The interactive piece, I saw a very interesting. It was augmented reality piece coming out of Oakland in one of their murals, and so I don't know if that was the interactive or Instagrammable mention, but can you tell me a little bit more about the interactive Instagrammable stuff that hopefully will go viral one day?
Yeah, well, I hope that all of our art that we display is Instagrammable, and I'm sure that there's a lot of creative people that will make that happen. More of the interactive elements are associated with our 40th Street streetscape project. And these are designed for people to, not only just sit on that lean bar as they wait for public transit, where it shows the beautiful display of the flora and fauna, but there's also some interactive pieces where you can move some of the items, and safely, of course, and basically engage a little bit more with the art, where it's not so hands-off, but they're able to sit on the benches, etc.
Any other questions, council members? There are none. Thank you for the presentation. It was a very beautiful presentation. Item 4.3 is the Women's History Month proclamation, and I will go ahead and read that. Whereas Women's History Month honors the extraordinary contributions of women from all races, classes, and ethnic backgrounds, recognizing their pivotal role in the growth and strength of our nation, both in recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas the actual celebration of Women's History Month grew out of a week-long celebration of women's contributions to culture, history, and society, organized by the School District of Sonoma, California in 1978. And whereas in 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8 as National Women's History Week. The U.S. Congress followed suit the next year, passing a resolution establishing a national celebration. 6 years later, the National Women's History Project successfully petitioned Congress to expand the event to the entire month of March. And whereas women have played an integral part in shaping every aspect of American life, consistently demonstrating remarkable skill, dedication, and sacrifice in defending the principles upon which our nation was built. And whereas women have broken barriers with courage and determination, overcoming discrimination, harassment, and adversity, thereby creating new opportunities for other women and girls, which in turn strengthens and enriches our communities as a whole. And whereas the 2026 theme, Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, celebrates the contributions of women who are leading sustainability efforts across environmental, economic, educational, and social justice movements. And whereas the city of Emeryville is proud to recognize its own history of dynamic women leaders, elected officials, community advocates, volunteers, entrepreneurs, educators, and many others whose efforts have helped shape the city we live in today. And whereas the city of Emeryville joins in celebrating the enduring contributions of women throughout history and honors the strength and commitment of those who continue to work towards equality, justice, and opportunity. Resolved by the City Council of City of Emeryville that the month of March 2026 is proclaimed Women's History Month, and the City of Emeryville commemorates this year's Women's History Month by recognizing the pivotal role of women in the community. Mary Lou Tierkoff, I would like to present this proclamation to you for highlighting the Women's History Month, this upcoming ECC which is on Wednesday. Is it March 26th or 25th? I'm sorry. March 25th. Please, everyone who would like to be there, please come. I am grateful to all your efforts that you have made to highlight the women entrepreneurs in our city. Thank you so much for doing that. And on behalf of our city council, I would like to welcome my honorable colleague, Courtney Welch, to present this proclamation to you with me. Does anyone want, any council members want to make any comments on those?
Oh, just thank you, Madam Mayor, for that wonderful proclamation. Of course, I've long called us the Women's Caucus, and so it's an honor to serve alongside you and in a city that pours into uplifting women leaders. We are led by our wonderful LaTanya Bello, our city manager, and so Emeryville women are making moves, and so I am grateful to be a part of an amazing team of great women here.
Thank you, Councilmember Welch. Any comments, Councilmember Pryforce?
Thank you, Mayor. I wish that the proclamation was agendized earlier. Because I definitely would have suggested that that for Women's History Month that we recognize not just women entrepreneurs, but as I learned while attending the International Women's Day event, that it was originally International Working Women's Day, and then it got changed because, you know, classism. And so that we extend it to not just women entrepreneurs, but to all working women. And so thank you all for everything that you all do to lift all of us up. Thank you.
Any further comments? All right, I am going to go ahead and extend that to all working women, including women entrepreneurs. And I also want to thank our gentlemen here. I know that you don't have a special day where you have proclamation. So I don't. There is an International Men's Day. I've just been informed. But at the same time, I know that when you lift the women in your families up, I know that they all make, we are grateful to our fathers, daughters, uncles, nephews, sons who lift us up and give us the wings to fly. And I hope we make them proud. If every time you do that to a woman in your family or a woman you support, I know that she'll come back one day and there'll be multiple returns of love and so much more. And we look forward to Men's International Day. We will all right, moving on to council members' special announcement reports on meeting attendance. Are there any special announcement reports, council members? Council member Pryforce.
So, of course, February was a very busy month. On top of February and March, on top of International Working Women's Day, I had the opportunity to participate in several Lunar New Year celebrations. And so I want to recognize everyone in Emeryville who celebrated Lunar New Year. And we started a war. And so unfortunately, a lot of lives have already been lost because of the war. And so I also want to recognize that Ramadan was celebrated recently. And so in terms of holy prayers, I want to just give an Eid Mubarak to the Muslim and the Muslim Islamic practicing community. And I think we should do a little bit more than that. And so I would love for when the Jewish holidays come up that we invite Jewish Voices for Peace to say something and share something, and as well as to our Muslim community. So we love you in Emeryville, and we hope that no matter what happens internationally, that you feel safe in our city. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pryforce. Moving on to item 6, City Manager's Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is nothing to report this evening.
Thank you, City Manager. Any ex parte communications, council members? Okay, I will just report a few on the 40th Street, and some of the members, public that provided their comments are present in this room. So that's the only one that I have to report. Any public comment for consent agenda and items not on agenda? Welcome.
Hello, my name is Julia Drummond, and I'm the founder of Women of the World Fund. And I recently participated in the community promotions grant process. And so I'm very grateful that we have these opportunities in our cities, and I wanted to just provide some feedback. The committee that reviewed the applications and will be making recommendations to council about where the grant money should go was made up of only men. And in a city where women make up the majority, so about 51% representation in these decisions really matter, especially when it comes to our public funds and where they're being allocated. And so it was beautiful how Mayor Carr, you just spoke about women and how we help shape our cities, our communities, our future. And so I just hope that the city and the council members take this into consideration moving forward.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
Hi, Vicki Sewell again.
Welcome.
I've served on this committee for about 5 years, not within the next 5 years. And I'd say it was 10, 12 years ago. You guys, it's still the same amount of money that we give out. And there's so many people applying for that grant. It's about $78,000 and so many people. And mostly they're great things. Women and girls in science, so many educational things, dancers in the school. It's amazing when you're on that committee. You learn so much about our city. But we need to increase the money. So find a way to have it get more money so we can give out more grants and have more educated people. And there's no reason why there shouldn't be. Used to be every committee put 2 people on it. So find a way to get a committee where there's all women. But anyway, yeah, that's my thing. Please increase it to maybe $120,000. Then we could give out a lot more grants.
Thank you for your comment. Any further comments? Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor, Vice, and council members. My name is Empress, and I am a small business owner operating within a live-work unit on Sherwin Avenue here in Emeryville. I want to begin by acknowledging that the city is making efforts to support entrepreneurs. That intention matters, but intention must align with outcomes, because when it does not, the gap is where inequity shows up. Emeryville has a history shaped by exclusion through zoning, land use, and access to economic participation. And today, exclusion does not always look like being denied entry. Sometimes it looks like being invited in, but not supported once you arrive. It looks like being allowed to exist, but not allowed to fully operate, stabilize, or grow. And if our current systems are producing that outcome, even unintentionally, then we have a responsibility to address that directly. Because exclusion, even when unintentional, is still exclusion. Now, I want to connect that to what is happening today. The development I operate in was clearly designed to market for retail, cafe, and food users. The materials described spaces built for visibility, outdoor seating, and community interaction, adjacent to parks, pedestrian activity, and residential density. These are not passive residential spaces. They were built for engagement. That is the expectation that brought many of us into these units. But today, those same activities, customer presence, visibility, and engagement are being challenged through complaint-driven enforcement systems. So the question becomes, how can a space be intentionally designed, approved, and marketed for retail and food use, and then treated as if those uses do not belong? This is not a tenant issue. It's a system alignment issue between what is approved and how it's being enforced. Because when expectations are not aligned and at the development level, conflict becomes inevitable. And right now, that conflict is being pushed. Can someone give me their 2 minutes? Is that okay to finish?
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to you have 2 more minutes from a member of the public?
Thank you, Mayor.
Please continue.
And right now, that conflict is being pushed into a complaint-based process where repeated or even coordinated complaints can trigger inspections, disruptions, regardless of whether a business is operating within its intended use. And when that happens, neutrality becomes a problem. Because when organized complaints are met with neutrality, that neutrality does not create fairness, it creates vulnerability. The outcome is no longer based on what is permitted. It becomes based on who applies the most pressure. And that is not policy. That is imbalance. There is also a critical need for clarity. A home-based business is not the same as a live-work commercial unit. A live-work unit is not the same as a purely residential space. And we also need clear definitions. What qualifies as a food facility? What qualifies as a retail space? Because if we cannot clearly define what is allowed, we cannot fairly enforce anything. And without clarity, small businesses are left navigating uncertainty instead of operating within stable standards. But there is also a real opportunity here. Live workspaces can serve as incubators for small businesses, activate neighborhoods, and contribute meaningful to the Emeryville's economy, but only if the systems support that reality. So I respectfully ask the city to revisit and modernize the Live Work policy so that it reflects how businesses operate today. Establish clear alignment across city, county, and property management. Encourage thoughtful curation of uses within Live workspaces to prevent predictable conflicts. And implement safeguards so that enforcement is based on verified conditions. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, council persons. My name is Kathy Leonard. I live in the 94608 zip code. I'm here supporting Empress. She invested life savings to create this business. It is a business that serves a lot of people who have gluten intolerance. That's what she does. She invested her money in this business, her time as a single mother, and now she's being asked, what, to leave the space? These rules need to be clear for people, for small businesses who are running businesses. This is her livelihood. Now what is she gonna do? She's invested all of her money into this business. Who's gonna recompense her for the money that she's lost if she's forced to leave this space? I love her baking. I buy her cookies. I don't buy store-bought cookies. I buy her cookies. She makes them by hand herself. They don't have, I call them the no crap cookies, because she doesn't have sugar in them. She doesn't have flour or the traditional flours. She uses organic products. What are we doing here, City of Emeryville? What are we doing to small businesses here? I know what Emeryville used to be. I was born and raised in this area. The Rotten City, I know what that means. But now you're courting big businesses, corporate interest, hospitals. But what about the small businesses that were here before all those people came here? Are we choosing to support those people and not support the small businesses that are in Emeryville? Let's reconsider this, because where am I gonna go? And people who have gluten intolerance, where are they gonna go when they wanna have delicious cookies? There's some other bakeries in the Bay Area that I won't call out names, but they're not that tasty. And I'm sorry, but they're very good. So I ask you to please reconsider your
for your
position.
comment.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Chris Longino, and I'm also a resident at the Emory Apartments and here to support Empress. I'm here tonight to advocate for her community cafe that supports the original intent of the city's live-work zoning, blending small-scale entrepreneurship with residential life to build a vibrant and connected community. Every neighbor I have spoken with shares the same vision as I have. We want a local neighborhood cafe where we can stop in every day and connect with our neighbors and enjoy some gluten-free cookies. The core issue here is a regulatory disconnect, or this is how I see it. I'm not sure of all the details, but what I've seen, what I've understood is that there's a small-scale, low-impact community space that can serve hundreds of neighbors that's being penalized by outdated definitions and repeated complaints from just two very loud neighbors. The Emory is a mixed-use development with live-work units. That's what it is. And it's specifically zoned for this type of commercial activity. This cafe is not a home-based business, as Empress said. It doesn't have a food facility that has the high level of food handling risk that a commercial industrial kitchen has. It sells only prepackaged foods and non-alcoholic beverages. If we allow every small live-work venture to be shut down by a few neighbor complaints or a rigid one-size-fits-all food facility permit, we lose the dynamic mixed-use character promised in the Emeryville General Plan. Please direct staff to help this tenant navigate the county's plan check process with a focus on its actual low-impact use, and act as a mediator with property management to ensure they are not overregulating a tenant who is operating within the city's intended zoning. And please direct staff to facilitate a problem-solving roundtable among the city's planning division, Alameda County Environmental Health, and the Emory Property Management.
Thank you for your comment, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Greetings, everyone. I live in San Francisco. I'm a customer of Empress. I met her a year ago at an event. I felt an immediate compatibility with her when I met her. High integrity person, impeccably honest, and she was also offering, we were tasting her cookies. I work with Whole Foods Market. I have for 30 years. I've never tasted a cookie that I've liked like what Empress makes in terms of just flavor and ingredients. I purchased them and I sampled them with my coworkers at the store where I work in San Francisco, Potrero Hill. They all loved her. I have engaged with her at social events. I invited her to SF MoMA for an event that I was invited to do for the staff. The staff loved her. All I've ever known in engaging with Empress is a high integrity, principled person who follows rules, contracts, anything. I mean, so I don't know what's going on, but there seems to be feels to me some bias. There's no transparency. A contract was signed. Everyone should be treated equally that's residing in this building. And I just know her to be a very joyful person. And anyone that meets her feels her vibration, and she's extremely high integrity and principled and honest. So I don't know what's taking place. It feels retaliatory, it feels unfair, it feels unbiased, and there's no transparency. So I just wanted to come and vouch for Empress. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you for your time. I'm here to support Empress, and I've known her for 20 years. And what she has done right now, you know, with her business, it's community, it's family. And once I heard what, you know, there was a lot of complaints about her business, so I had to, you know, find out for myself. So the Embry Apartments, 4310 Hubbard Street, the units 101, 102, 103, 104, it's on Sherwin. These are live-work spaces, and they're supposed to have a business. So I do go by there during the day just to see what these other units are doing. The blinds are up. There's no business. So there's got to be some type of accountability. You know, anyone can complain, but we need to find out what's really going on. So I just want the city and the people to just really look at this situation and take a look at it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm here representing the Emeryville Commerce Connection, ECC board. I'm the chair of the board. And Empress is a wonderful member of ECC. And although I haven't known her long, I don't know her well. She's maybe the one person I look forward to the most at every single mixer that she attends. She lights up the room. I don't know what, if anything, city council can do, although I think Empress made a number of really good suggestions. But I think that she does need some support from the city and from city businesses. I've also had the opportunity to see her outside of our Emeryville Commerce Connection mixers, and I'm just impressed with her as a community member. I'm a citizen of Emeryville, and I can see that she and some of her friends in the Emory are raising children in a way that is really impressive in ways that I wasn't raised. And it's just very impressive. And I mean, I want to be her when I grow up. So I just encourage city council to do whatever you can to support her as a resident of Emeryville and as a business owner. And if, as Mary Lou presented in the EDAC presentation, if this city does want to support BIPOC small businesses and small businesses as a whole, we need to include her in that. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any further comments? Okay. Moving on to the next item, which is the consent calendar. I will ask, before we move on to the consent calendar, I will ask Lilybell to make announcements about tracts.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pursuant to SB 707, the Brown Act Modernization Act, tonight I am reporting council compensation actions for the city manager and city attorney. First, following the city manager's one-year performance evaluation, city manager is receiving a 4% increase. This increase is supported both by the city manager's evaluation and salary survey data of our comparator cities showing our salary as 13.9% below median. Second, with the expiration of the city attorney contract, the council is approving a new 18-month contract which includes the city attorney receiving a 4% salary increase effective March 2026 and another 4% salary increase effective March 2027. The new contract and increases are supported by the city attorney's evaluation and salary survey data of our comparator cities showing our salary as 19.9% below median. Additionally, both the city manager and the city attorney will receive an additional 1% increase if any revenue measure placed on the November 2026 ballot is approved by the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar?
I will move
Council,
approval.
Councilmember Pryforce?
I would, okay, no, okay. No, I'll let the motion and then, okay, go ahead.
I will move approval of the consent calendar tonight.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Mora. Please take vote on the consent calendar.
Councilmember Mora,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce,
Aye, but recusal on item 911, perfect, as it relates to 40th.
thank you. Councilmember Welch, Vice Mayor Solomon,
Aye.
and Mayor Carr.
Aye.
Motion carries.
There are no public hearings at this time, and we are moving on to action item 11.1, which is the 40th Street Multimodal Project Environmental Clearance Approval.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. I'm Ryan O'Connell, Senior Civil Engineer of the Public Works Department. Tonight, I'll be presenting the next step for the 40th Street Multimodal Project as we continue to move the project forward towards construction. Before getting into the details, I want to briefly connect tonight's item into Council's previous action on the project. The Council has considered the project many times over the years as design has progressed and been refined. In fact, there have been 23 separate City Council actions related to the project since 2017. Most recently, on November 18th, 2025, Council approved the updated project description for the 40th Street Multimodal Project and directed staff to complete the environmental review process in return for final approval. Tonight's item fulfills that direction, and if approved, will allow the project to move forward toward construction bidding. Next slide. This slide summarizes the overall development timeline for the project. Nearly a decade of planning, analysis, community engagement, and city council direction has gone into this project. The project originally began in 2017 with the goal of improving the San Pablo and 40th Street Transit Hub, but it quickly grew and it brought in multimodal safety and connectivity along the entire 40th Street corridor. Early work included community workshops, intercept surveys at the bus stops, and initial concept development. In 2020, City Council approved the conceptual project design and directed staff to further study potential side street safety improvements. In 2023, the results of those studies were presented to Council, and Council expanded the project to include the Shellmount Street segment to close the Bay Trail Gap, and directed staff to evaluate vehicular access restrictions on the north side of 40th Street at unsignalized side streets. In August 2025, staff presented an updated traffic operations analysis to City Council. We followed up that visit with a November 2025 visit to City Council, where Council approved an updated project description and where Council directed staff to complete an environmental review. Since that time, the city circulated a draft environmental document for public comment and prepared a response to comments document that is included in tonight's council item in the attachment B document. The public comment period went for 45 days, and we received 55 comments during that time. It is all in the response to comments document in attachment B. Tonight represents the final step before the project can move into the bidding and construction phases. Next slide. And tonight, council is being asked to take 3 primary actions. First, adopt the final initial study and mitigated negative declaration prepared under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. Second, authorize the city engineer to advertise the project for construction bids. And third, approve traffic regulations required to implement the project pursuant to California Vehicle Code. And also to confirm disabled parking zones, loading zones, and curb colors that are included in the project plans. Next slide. On November 18th, 2025, City Council approved the updated project description for 40th Street Multimodal Project, which established the project design being presented tonight. As a reminder to why we're doing this project, the 40th Street and Shellmount Street corridors serve as an important trunk line transit and mobility connection through Emeryville. The corridors link to MacArthur BART, the Bay Trail, and major employment and residential areas. Our San Pablo and 40th Transit Hub and the major transit lines running through it connect to downtown Berkeley, downtown Oakland, downtown San Francisco, and of course into our economic core and employment and shopping areas of Emeryville. Because of these connections, the corridor carries a mix of travel modes, including bus riders, pedestrians, bicyclists, and local vehicle traffic. The purpose of this project is to improve the safety, connectivity, and reliability for all of these users, while strengthening the corridor's role as a key multimodal connection within the city and the broader region. The improvements proposed as part of the project focus on reducing conflicts between travel modes and improving the overall corridor operations. Next slide. This project has been shaped by nearly a decade of extensive and continuous stakeholder engagement. It's a process we've taken very seriously to ensure the final design reflects the community's needs. The outreach began in 2018 with community workshops and intercept surveys at the bus stops along the corridor to gather initial feedback. As this design advanced, when we hired our design consultant, Diablo Engineering, we held 7 in-person community meetings in the summer of 2023 to present the updated concepts, which included the proposed vehicle restriction areas on the north side of 40th Street. Beyond these larger meetings, our team has conducted significant direct outreach. This includes 20 dedicated meetings with key stakeholders, including property owners, businesses, to address site-specific concerns. We also held 4 virtual workshops to broaden participation to get more people in the room. Throughout the entire process, we've maintained open lines of communication, responding to hundreds of individual emails and phone calls. To ensure broad public awareness at key milestones, we've also sent out a lot of mailers, over 13,000 mailers throughout the project's lifetime. This includes over 1,000 initial postcards and detailed mailers sent to residents within a quarter mile of the corridor during our concept phases, and then an additional 12,860 mailers sent to notified properties within a half mile of the project about the formal CEQA public comment period. This engagement has not just been for input, it's also led to tangible results. Most recently, after hearing concerns from residents of 1440 by the Bay Senior Living Facility, staff held 2 dedicated follow-up meetings at their community room. This collaboration has resulted in us refining designs for biking, parking, loading, and ADA access at their frontage to fit their needs. Similarly, we are working with 2 businesses on Hubbard Street to address access for large trucks across the vehicle restriction areas. We've drafted license agreements for these areas, and staff will continue working with the businesses to finalize mutually workable solutions, and will continue working with other businesses along the corridor as needed. And finally, this project has been a regular topic of public discussion at City Council, where stakeholder input is always welcome. Including tonight, there have been 23 items brought before City Council, and there have also been multiple visits at our advisory committee since 2017. Confirming and all of these visits have confirmed the direction and progress of the project every step of the way. Next slide. The total estimated cost for the 40th Street Multimodal project is approximately $34.1 million, which includes both the design and construction. Throughout the years, staff has worked to assemble a diverse funding plan to deliver the project and getting this project to be fully funded. The majority of the project funding comes from 8 outside grants. That includes 4 regional transportation grants, 3 state grants, 1 federal grant, and we have 1 more pending on the way that's $500,000, and we're hoping to have that executed later this year. And through City Council direction, we've used an aggressive funding strategy. We've had strong lobbying efforts, partnerships, letters of support, and the city's been able to leverage a lot of last dollar in funding to deliver this major transportation project while minimizing the use of local funds. This is the largest infrastructure project the city has ever done in its history, and it's funded with 6% of city funds. The majority of these funds are capital restricted funds that are allocated as early as 1999 through bond measures and assessment districts. And again, at this time, the project is fully funded. The funds shown here on the screen are also enough to fund the Third Amendment contract that was approved on the consent calendar earlier tonight. Next slide. The city has completed the environmental review for the project under California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. An initial study and a mitigated negative declaration was prepared to evaluate the project's potential environmental impacts. The draft environmental document was circulated for public review from November 24th, 2025 through January 7th, 2026. During this period, the city received 55 comments from residents, businesses, and public agencies. All comments were reviewed and addressed in the response to comments document, which together with the draft environmental document forms the final ISMND being presented tonight as attachment B in the council packet. With the environmental review process now complete, I'll briefly summarize the actions before council tonight and the next steps to move the project forward. Next slide. Tonight and in closing, staff is requesting that the council adopt the final initial study and mitigated negative declaration prepared under CEQA, which completes the environmental review process for the project. Second, staff is requesting that the city council authorize the city engineer to advertise the project for bids. And third, city council is being asked to approve traffic regulations required to implement the project and confirm disabled parking zones, loading zones, and curb colors included in attachment A in the council packet. If council approves these items tonight, the project will move into the bidding phase. During this phase, staff will complete the remaining Caltrans project processes associated with state and federal funding and proceed with advertising the project for construction bids later this spring or summer. Once bids are received, the construction contract will return to City Council for a review and award. And if everything proceeds on schedule, construction is anticipated to begin in late 2026. We have a 2-year construction window with project completion expected around late 2028. Staff recommends approval of all the actions before you tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council members, are there any questions on this item? Okay. My colleagues have no questions. I'm going to ask you some. What year were the traffic counts used to calibrate the corridor model collected?
They were collected in 2023 and 2024.
So these were all collected before Tokyo Central?
That is correct.
And they were all collected before the announcement of Sutter?
That is correct.
And before the contract Sutter signed with the city?
Sutter has not signed any contract with the city.
But there was a purchase agreement, right?
We did not sell the property to Sutter. No, Sutter bought the property from Biomed Realty.
Okay. Thank you. the point being that this was predating that agreement from before Sarah purchased its property, correct?
That is correct. What's the date of the purchase of that, Chad?
So can you confirm the lane configuration, particularly how many westbound vehicle lanes remain, whether
Yeah, on 40th Street, there's going to be one general purpose lane in the westbound direction, one transit only lane. In the eastbound direction, there will be two general purpose lanes, just like there is today, and one transit only lane in the eastbound direction on 40th Street. On Shellmount Street, the northbound southbound section of this project, there's going to be one general purpose lane in each direction, one transit only lane in each direction. But this is on weekdays only. On the weekends, there will be two general purpose lanes in each direction. So the transit only restriction will not be in effect on weekends on Shellmount Street.
okay, I'm just to make sure that I have this right, because the diagrams were confusing to me a little bit. On 40th, there's going to be only one westbound general purpose lane.
That is correct.
Okay. And then have emergency vehicles reviewed the design for response and maneuverability on that one westbound general purpose lane?
They have, and they've also been reviewing the emergency vehicle access areas of the north side vehicle access restriction areas, and emergency vehicles will be able to use the transit only lanes at any point in time to get to their destinations.
I'm just confirming whether the buses, emergency vehicles, and general traffic will share the same lane in that segment.
Can you clarify on that question one more time?
Yes, whether the buses, emergency vehicles, and general traffic will share the same general purpose lane in the 40th Street corridor segment.
So on 40th
So-
Street, there will be one general purpose lane where regular vehicles will go. There will be a transit-only lane where the buses will go. Emergency vehicles, when they're not in an emergency event, should use the general purpose lane, but in an emergency event, they can use any lane that they want to.
So the westbound lane, that's the one lane. Can we have the diagram up, please, for that?
April, if you should pull up the first slide, the title slide, that should show the diagram. That one right there. Yeah, so this shows the westbound direction on the right side. And that's one general purpose lane and one transit only lane. And then in the eastbound direction, it has two general purpose lanes and a transit only lane on the far left side.
All right, thank you for confirming and clarifying. Okay. I just want to make sure that the East Bay property owners got your outreach letters.
Yeah, so the East Bay Bridge Shopping District property owners, Federal Realty, have been notified at various points in time of the project. So we reached out to them during the design concept phase, during the planning phase, for sidewalk easements, for expanding sidewalks on bus stops on the south side of 40th Street to try to expand sidewalks at that time. So they were notified during that time. And every single time that we've sent out mailers, they have received mailers. We've also reached out to some of their tenants, such as Target, at various times for different project designs or different feature discussions, talking with the driveway access at 40th Street with Target, and any other mailer that we've done for like CEQA, they have also received notifications, and we have also reached out with Federal Realty as late as this past Monday. We have had a discussion with Federal Realty. So But there's been other email chains with Federal Realty throughout this whole process over the years.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Council members? There are no questions. I'm opening this item for public comment. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your time. Welcome to the podium, sir.
My name is Greg Harper. I spent a few terms up there and even more as a director of AC Transit, which brings forth my comment. I have absolutely no idea how AC Transit is going to increase service anywhere near justify these bus lanes. Right now, you've got two lines going down through there that AC Transit cannot afford to supplement at all right now, or maybe for the next few years. It is suffering very much financially, as all transit agencies are in the entire country. So if you pass this, you're going to get 3 buses in each direction every half hour. That's going to be embarrassing. And there's no way that AC Transit can afford to all of a sudden say, well, those 2 lines will just double. There's no reason for them to. It's the end of the line for the 57, coming and going. It's the beginning. There's just no passengers there. And there's no money. That's the most important thing. I mean, the AC Transit is, I looked it up to get the latest. It is projecting service cuts worth $238 million over the next 4 years. That's a lot of bus service that's going to be cut. And they're going to need a whole lot more to make this anything but embarrassment from drivers that are trying to do there. And I think they need to talk to AC Transit and get some sort of assurance that, I don't know, there is now they're gathering signatures for a November ballot for Save Bay Area Transit. That supposedly will be a $1 billion, but that's for the whole Bay Area every year.
For your comment.
So I think that they just need to get real about what AC Transit can do with these in order to make this look like it makes any sense.
Thank you for your comment, former Mayor Harper.
Tonight's Public Works presentation has not responded to many of its stakeholders, nor provided nor suggested updated economic impact studies. This is disastrous. A few years ago, our vacancy rates were terrible. Bay Street was 30% vacant, and in 2024, our life science vacancy rate peaked at 39%, the highest in the East Bay. Amazingly, Sutter Health announced last year that it had acquired Emory Yards, the vacant former Chiron site, and committed to build in our city a $1 billion landmark regional healthcare center serving thousands of staff and patients starting in 2028. Patients who will give birth or need dialysis and cancer treatments, patients who from the Alta Bates region are 44% people of color and 36% at below 200% of the federal poverty level. Nearby, Bay Street, with its 30% vacancy rate, was acquired by CenterCal Property for $90 million in 2021, a gasping $194 million less than its price in 2015. CenterCal then pumped in an additional $70 million, and in 2021 as well, Emeryville's Planning Commission approved the construction of a grocery store with over 130 parking spaces. On January 31st, 2026, thousands of people drank our Kool-Aid, with the landmark opening of Tokyo Central Market finally allowing Bay Street to fill almost all of its empty space and become a vibrant regional and city hub, a place where hundreds of people work. You on this council could imperil these landmark and tremendous steps forward because with no updated economic impact studies, you inflict unwanted chaos on our
Thank
city.
you for your comment.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Michael Coulomb. I live just off of San Pablo, and I am the traffic on 40th Street. Home Depot is my my local hardware store. I get a lot of my basics at Target, and there are allegations I've been seeing at Total Wine. Despite how small my errands may be, I do drive there. And despite how close I live, the only safe way for me to get there is by car. If we had this facility on 40th Street, I would take my bicycle more. I would be more inclined to walk there to run those basic errands. I want to commend City Council for its vision on this, its commitment to safety and to accessibility with this project. And I want to commend staff for their creativity and their tenacity in securing nearly $32 million in investment for our community. This project advances the city's general plan. It has been conducted with extreme due diligence by staff, its consultants, and City Council. And the city has also gone above and beyond to make opportunities available for the public and stakeholders to participate in this process. It is not the obligation or the duty of the city to ensure that everybody agrees with this project, but the city has gone above and beyond its obligation to build consensus for this project and to justify it. And so I urge the City Council to approve the project's environmental documents and related actions this evening and to proceed with the project in urgency. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, Council. I'm Sam Gould. I'm speaking today as an individual in support of the 40th Street Multimodal Project. The safety benefits of this project are real and very personal to me. When I was going to pick up some calzones for dinner from Temescal, I was hit by a turning distracted driver on 40th Street. A couple months before this, my wife got a moderate concussion on this road while commuting home on bike from her job as a teacher at an Oakland middle school and had to be rushed to urgent care. 40th Street is the main connection to MacArthur BART and the only connection to the Bay Bridge Trail for miles. The amount of people riding buses that use this road for part of their journey number in the tens of thousands. I've observed congested and dangerous conditions for buses, cyclists, and pedestrians following the opening of new businesses on Bay Street, something that could be addressed with the planned improvements. As we all know, bus lanes are incredibly important for emergency vehicles as well, for getting around stop traffic while trying to save lives. Every day this project is delayed is a chance that more people get injured. This project has been voted on 23 times already by City Council over the course of 10 years. These delays drive up costs and lead to the existing conditions, resulting in even more injuries for those just trying to use our streets. We must work on improving project delivery timelines, including the number of times an item must return to council. This could include things like delegating the authority to accept grants to planning staff and doing the planning up front while empowering planning staff to deliver. With multiple major projects in the future, this should be a priority for the city. Thank you for your continued support of the project. I'm excited for it to break ground this year. And since buses often go invisible, despite how many people they carry, I'm just gonna list some bus lines that run on 40th Street. So there's a bus every 1 minute, 30 seconds, including the Transbay F, the Transbay J, the 36, the 22, the 57, which combined have a total ridership of more than 30,000 people. There's a Shellmound Emery go-round, there's the Hollis Emery go-round, as well as many private shuttles, such as the Berkeley Lab Shuttle, now the Sutter Health Shuttle. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Kurt Himmey, co-owner of the properties on 40th Street between Hubbard and Horton. I'd like to speak today about the impacts this project will have on our business. The impacts we feel have not been adequately researched. 40th Street is just not a bike pedestrian corridor. It's how freight moves, how customers arrive, how employees get to work, how service and delivery vehicles access properties. Mayor herself called it a destination city. The regional connector is another word that's used. Why do we ever limit access to such a corridor? Raised curbs, tightened turning radius for trucks, dedicated two-way cycle track, closure of streets. What is the impact? The city relied on a truck turning analysis to analyze this impact. The initial study nor the mitigated negative declaration should be considered an environmental impact report. On paper, trucks make larger turns, swing wider, deliveries block lanes, conflicts with bike facilities increase. These are daily operational realities. If we lose convenient access, customers don't adjust. They don't come back. 3 years of lane reductions, dust, noise, confusion, delivery complications, not a temporary inconvenience and can permanently damage quarter of business. When business impacts are caused by physical changes to circulation, access removal or impediments, parking elimination, truck reconfiguration, prolonged construction, they are environmental impacts under CEQA, especially where access is permanently altered, parking is permanently removed, and streets are permanently closed. These potential impacts cannot be dismissed by staff as policy disagreements or merely economic to avoid addressing them. They are real land use and circulation impacts and must be analyzed properly. We are asking that you please fully evaluate the environmental
Thank you, sir.
impacts. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Rader. I frequently visit my brother at his assisted living facility, 1440 by the Bay on 40th Street. All the residents at 1440 are disabled in one way or another, so I've helped them to understand and express themselves about this project. The project has been underway for years, but no one from the city reached out to the residents until 50 community members submitted a petition strongly opposing the plan, and after 7 of them came to speak to you on January 20. Only then, just weeks ago, did city staff reach out to propose mitigations, addressing just one of the 2 primary concerns. The first concern was the elimination of parking that provides vital access to transportation and emergency service vehicles. This concern was mostly addressed, which is appreciated. The second concern was not. The disabled residents of 1440, as well as visitors, staff, and all other pedestrians up and down 40th Street, must still cross a 2-way cycle track with fast-moving bikes and scooters to reach public and private transportation on the public street. Staff attempted to address this by proposing to clearly mark pedestrian paths from the doorway of 1440 and 2 other spots across the bike track, and to add sidewalk features to signal to cyclists that they should slow down. These last-minute design features implicitly acknowledge the safety risk this project poses to residents. It seems impossible that these features could have been adequately studied in just a few weeks. And while the design features are intended to encourage cyclists to slow down, there's no assurance they will do so. We all see cyclists routinely violating traffic rules, let alone slowing down on a designated bike path. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires street alterations to be readily accessible to and usable by individuals with disabilities to the maximum extent feasible. Planning public infrastructure that requires fragile, slow-moving people to cross a 2-way bike track to access transportation on the public street appears to me to be a violation of the ADA. I hope you will rethink this plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Any further comments? Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Laura Vrastel, and I'm the Senior Asset Manager for Federal Realty, responsible for our West Coast properties, including East Bay Bridge Shopping Center. And I'm here this evening to urge a more careful consideration of the 40th Street multimodal project before proceeding. While we all support more walkable communities, safe, clean, and convenient public transportation, and protected bicycle paths, these desires should be balanced with the city's stated goal to maintain a dynamic and growing business community. The reason, of course, is that because the business community provides sales tax, business license tax, and much of the property tax revenue that supports the city's many services and projects. East Bay Bridge is a successful shopping center. However, it's not without its challenges. Within the last couple of weeks, 4 of our retailers have been broken into, 2 of them twice. Within the last year or 2, we have lost an anchor tenant due to security problems, and we fear we may lose another anchor tenant because of this project. There is concern that eliminating traffic on 40th Street, a traffic lane on 40th Street, may cause enough congestion to dissuade consumers from coming to the center. We ask that the city take the time to analyze the traffic impacts of the Sutter Medical Facility before rather than after the fact. The extended construction time is also of concern. Construction by its nature is disruptive, and people will avoid it when they can. Over an 18 to 24-month construction period, consumers will find more convenient shopping alternatives. As we know, habits can be hard to break, and frankly, we want to keep every customer and make shopping in Emeryville and East Bay Bridge as pleasant an experience as possible.
Thank you for your comment.
Joyce, I have 2 minutes. Okay, I just want to finish. Traffic and construction are important considerations that will have economic impacts which have yet to be defined or studied. We ask the City Council to examine and understand these economic consequences of the project before moving forward. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being open-minded. And thank you for considering our feedback. We truly appreciate your service and all the city does and provides for East Bay Bridge Shopping Center.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening to the, City Council, Mayor. I came here the last time because I've been a resident of 1440 40th Street for 6.5 years, and I'm scared right now because, yes, there were modifications, there were efforts put into modifications, but for those of us who live there and who are at least mobility compromised, crossing that 2-lane bicycle track, we're told, like first, second, third graders, stop and look both ways. For those of us as residents, and especially if we have any kind of mobility device, if I stop and look both ways, I'm going to get dizzy and most likely fall over in the middle of a 2-way bicycle track and no way to get up. And that's something that if you haven't had anybody in that situation, you wouldn't really understand. So I urge you all to really understand and talk to those of us who live there and who need more consideration, I guess, than has been put in. And the other thing, which someone just previously mentioned, the loss of parking is essential, because when we have family or friends coming to pick us up or deliver us.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Harvey Y. Morris. I'm a resident of 1440 by the Bay, and I'm also a resident of Emeryville. I came here to address the problems that I see with the proposal going forward, and they are basically, they don't take into account the safety concerns of those of us that have mobility problems. And there's a lot of us concentrated right at the 1440 by the Bay. So you have all this project with all these bicyclists converging on our area, and then we have the problems right in our area where we have a concentration of disabled people. That's why this doesn't make sense. And if you could just turn to one page of the option 2, they call it, this is page 19 of the March 2nd, 2026 handout. If you have that here, or if you could put it on your screen.
So your clock is running.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is the report that was done by staff to you about these options said that we support, with those options approved, this project, and that was not true. Not a single person I talked to at the 1445 Bay supports the project. They just voted between options that were offered by the representative of the project. And we never voted for supporting this project. In fact, we always suggested an alternative would be, don't take the project by our place. We have like 150 people that are disabled, and so you have a concentration of disabled people faced with their coming to our place.
Are you yielding your time, ma'am, or are you trying to make a public comment?
Yeah.
You have 2 more minutes.
Thank you. In this okay. Well, have you found that part, this slide yet? Well, the slide just simply shows a two-way track where bicycles would go, and it shows that there's a danger if they collide with each other. They're given a very limited road to go through our area. They could collide with each other and crash into the windows. They also the bus drivers that drive buses that drop off people to our facility, they take up to 5 minutes to get the people hooked up onto a ramp, mechanical ramp that goes down to their facility, and then it takes up to 5 minutes, and so people on a bus gets disrupted, but also the person who was waiting for, approaching our facility and yield to pedestrians, so they didn't know what to do. How is that person to know what to do with pedestrians when in 10 seconds they're going to approach the target area and they're riding a bike, and then the person on the other side is waiting for a bus driver to get this ramp working. The ramp also shows this area that supposedly the bus drivers can use, drop off people, or our friend or family can use, drop off people. It's really very smaller because you have a ramp that comes down 6 feet into this area where people are waiting for the bus.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm here today to urge City Council to reassess the 40th Street multimodal project and consider simpler, more effective ways to improve safety and vibrancy in Emeryville. Previous public comments from diverse individuals have shared a wide range of concerns about the negative effects of the current design, including increased congestion, significant impacts on the disabled community, and reduced ability for businesses to receive inventory and serve customers. As council members, your responsibility includes reassessing prior decisions when new information emerges. This is one of those moments. Tonight, you're being asked to approve over $1.4 million in additional consulting fees and to approve Ryan O'Connell's additional action items, making this an ideal time to pause and reflect. Given current global events and the impact on energy and material costs, it's unlikely this will be the last increase in spend. Many believe there are better ways to achieve the same goals, such as creating a safer crossing at San Pablo and 40th, expanding bus stops along 40th to improve comfort and accessibility, and most importantly, investing in alternative bike routes that many bicyclists already prefer, such as Park Avenue and the 45th Street Bike Boulevard. In fact, the city's current plan would make Park Avenue an official truck route. These improvements could likely be delivered at a fraction of the cost while providing more direct benefits to residents, cyclists, pedestrians, and transit riders. They would also avoid the substantial negative impacts on our business community, which is the economic engine that funds city services and salaries. You're not obligated to complete a decade-old plan simply because it exists and because of its sunk costs. Your obligation is to do what is right for the city today. That is why I'm speaking now and urging you to change course. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. I'm here tonight to support the 40th Street Multimodal Project. I live on 43rd Street nearby, and I use 40th Street for biking almost every day. I buy groceries daily and hardware most weekends at the Safeway and the Home Depot along the south side of the road. I like to stop for a scone or a baklava at Arizmendi or Simurg. There are other stores around me in Berkeley and Oakland, but I choose to spend my money in Emeryville because it's better to bike here than elsewhere. It's always faster, more convenient than driving and parking for me, and I appreciate all the positive changes that Emeryville has been making to its streets in support of bikes and transit over the years. I'm excited to have even more businesses along Shell Mound more easily accessible thanks to the multimodal project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Scott Donahue, 1420 45th Street. I do a lot of biking, and I bike a lot on Park Avenue, and I bike a lot on 40th Street. And I can tell you today, Park Avenue is actually faster from a bike point of view. There aren't as many lights and there are stop signs. More pleasant also. There are nice trees shading it, and there's dramatically less traffic. If somehow you could retain all of that fabulous public money and put the biking onto Park Avenue, you would solve so many problems, plus be able to improve 40th Street and actually increase traffic flow through. Just think of what this project would really do for our community if you could do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, former Mayor Donahue. Any further public comments? Welcome.
Excuse me, I have a cold. Good evening, Mayor Carr and council members. My name is Deborah Heaney, co-owner of Bone Motif Company and Rug Depot Outlet, longstanding Emeryville businesses directly affected by this project. This project requires an EIR, not an MND. Under CEQA, if there is substantial evidence supporting a fair argument that the project may have a significant environmental impact, an EIR is required, even if staff believes impacts can be mitigated. Over 55 written comments were submitted that contain substantial evidence regarding traffic diversion and delays, truck turning conflicts, emergency access, cumulative impacts with the new Sutter Hospital, and redundancy with existing robust bike paths in Emeryville. Disagreement among experts triggers an EIR. Comments submitted by us and others clearly show disagreement. The city repeatedly dismissed our concerns and those of many others as not environmental or design preference issues, but they are not. They are environmental impacts that need to be analyzed. By law, CEQA requires environmental review be conducted as early as feasible in the planning process. The process is to allow environmental considerations to shape the project before a design is made. Here, the project has been in development for nearly a decade. Over $5 million has been spent, and tonight the city is being asked to authorize construction bidding. That is not early-stage environmental review. That is late-stage validation. CEQA is not meant to validate a pre-decided design. It is meant to inform decision makers before irreversible commitments are made. At this stage, the design is fixed, funding has been secured, and construction advertising is about to be underway. That undermines CEQA's core purpose. Examples of important impacts were not fully analyzed. Truck access and raised curbs, for example. Several detailed comments describe WD-40 and SU-30 truck turns.
Thank you for your comment. Are you yielding your time or wanting to make a public? You have 2 more minutes, ma'am.
Raised curbs create irreversible physical constraints. increased conflict points due to the closure of Hubbard, Hayden, Holden, and Watts at 40th Street, blocked deliveries, and modified turning paths and reduced local parking for residents, businesses alike. We've proven this to you in person on Hubbard and Watts with in real-life truck simulations. Operational friction not previously present. These are permanent geometric changes, not just cosmetic changes. Emergency access. Commenters raise impacts to fire and ambulance response, diversion of emergency routes, cumulative Sutter Hospital traffic impacts, reduced maneuverability from raised curbs, closures, and bollards. The city's response is dismissive despite commenters presenting site-specific concerns. The evidence provided by the commenters shows substantial evidence of potential safety, traffic, and land use impacts. When there is conflicting evidence about whether a project may cause significant environmental impacts, CEQA does not allow the city to simply choose one side and move forward. It can only choose to prepare an EIR. An EIR exists precisely for this situation, where there are serious, credible questions. The record contains substantial evidence that the project may have significant impacts to traffic, truck circulation, emergency access, hazardous materials, and cumulative conditions. We respectfully ask that you not adopt this ISMND and require preparation of a full EIR. Under CEQA's fair argument standard, that alone requires an EIR. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, City Council. My name is Tyler. I worked for 3 years just south of the San Pablo and 40th Street intersection on 40th Street. I also go to Emeryville to shop at the Bay Street Shopping Center and further north at the outlet stores there. I really like shopping at Emeryville. In fact, the stores that are here are not much anywhere else in the East Bay. And it's also a beautiful place that I enjoy being in. I don't have a car, so the way that I get here is through transit, but also primarily through bicycling. When I bike to either of those shopping destinations, 40th Street is definitely the most uncomfortable part of that experience. It's a street with a lot of fast-moving vehicles, and the current bike lane situation is a very small strip on the side of the road with no protection. I also bike through in Emeryville up to the Bay Trail, something I really enjoy. I look at this design as someone who bikes and takes public transit as my only way of getting around, and I'm over the moon about it. I see it as a way to share 40th Street with all members of the community. I would remind those who think about 40th Street as a driver that cyclists and transit users want access to it for the same reasons that they do. I take 40th Street because my destinations are on 40th Street. With that said, I look forward to a safer, more beautiful, cleaner, and quieter corridor, and thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brandon Azevedo. I am here as a resident of the 94608, as an employee of a business located on San Pablo Avenue and 40th Street, and as someone who also, is in the car during traffic on 40th Street running my errands. So I ask you to support this item. I'm also someone who wants to open a new business and open a cafe either along 40th Street or near 40th Street. And I'm really excited about the possibility of increasing the number of folks who are walking and biking and taking the bus to my new business. I believe that cars do not promote foot traffic, but rather inhibit it. As many other people have said, this project will make 40th Street much safer and enjoyable to walk and bike along. I'd be much more inclined to drop the car when I need to run errands and, walk to Target or where else I need to be. In fact, if I'm walking or biking, I'm actually more likely to stop into a business that maybe I hadn't dropped into before. Definitely if I'm in my car, I'm not going to just stop. So, I urge you to support this project, and let's create a community that ensures everyone can safely get around without needing to drive or be in a car. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Robert Prinz. I'm the advocacy director with local nonprofit Bike East Bay. I'm also an Emeryville resident, former member of the Emeryville Bike Walk Committee going back to 2010. Bike East Bay supports this project. We encourage your votes to move it forward to construction. This project is one of the highest priorities from Emeryville's 2023 Bike Walk Plan. It's been in development since well before then, as you know. This project also provides significant benefits to AC Transit and Emeryground, as well as for pedestrian safety and emergency access. It's important to get this project moving now and completed ahead of future developments in Emeryville, as safe and accessible biking, walking, and transit facilities means that more of those future visitors won't need to bring a car with them. This proactive planning is important in order to help shape transportation choices, not only react to them. Some of the mitigations, such as the raised sidewalk level bikeway in front of the 1440 by the Bay facility, are similar to solutions developed with other projects around the East Bay. For example, we collaborated with staff and patrons of the Adult Day Health Center on advocacy for a raised bikeway with Oakland's 14th Street Protected Bikeway Project to enable paratransit loading and safe patient access. However, appropriate staging throughout the entire construction process to protect accessibility and safety are critical. So we really encourage staff to handle this carefully and in ongoing coordination with 1440 by the Bay. Something we hope the city will consider via separate process is additional traffic calming on the Horton Street Bike Boulevard for the 2 blocks north of 40th to help potentially offset impacts from car traffic increases on that corridor associated with the other side street diverters. Thank you for receiving my comments.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tim Robison with Butner Properties. Butner Properties is an Emeryville property owner of more than 70 years tenure and owns properties along Halleck Street, Hubbard Street, as well as Park Street. The proposed full closure of Hubbard Street at the 40th Street intersection would negatively impact Butner Properties holdings due to the loss of access, traffic congestion, and traffic queuing that the project as proposed would create for the area. Ease of access is an essential component of operating a business in terms of delivery of goods and services, as well as customer access. We question the city's analysis of traffic operations within the project area. The analysis did not consider development in the area 5, 10, or 20 years into the future. It is unclear how the city accounted for the lane removals planned as part of the San Pablo Avenue corridor bike lane project. Further, the city has chosen to move forward without considering the traffic impact of the Sutter Health Hospital project. Butner Properties' concerns with the planned partial or full street closures led it to commission its own comprehensive study of existing and future project area traffic. The proposed street closures, as well as the dedicated bus lanes in each direction of 40th Street, would result in significant traffic congestion with consequent automobile and bus emissions while idling in traffic, as well as negatively impacting access to both large and small businesses on the north and south sides of 40th Street. The San Pablo Avenue bus project and Sutter Health project will further exacerbate this problem. We understand that the city has a major goal of safety for pedestrians and bicyclists with the 40th Street multimodal project. However, the city's decision on the full closure of Hubbard Street did not include Butner Properties, Pottery and Beyond, Motivate, Rug Depot, and other key stakeholders during their deliberations and decisions. Thus, we believe there was a lack of transparency and balance in these decisions. There is easier and safer access to the Bay Trail for bicyclists from Park Street into 40th Street.
Thank you for your comment. Did you already yield your time? Okay. I see. Yes, you have 2 more minutes, sir.
Were these options, other than the full closure of Hubbard Street, considered, given the potential adverse impact on small businesses? There are serious faults in the proposed revocable license agreement for access to Hubbard Street. The rights an affected property owner is being asked to waive without just compensation. The burdens imposed upon such a property owner, and by extension its tenants, for very minimal benefit, which, when given even a cursory reading of the license agreement, are temporary and completely illusory. And the third, the city's complete lack of understanding of the mechanics of modern commerce, given the challenging Bay Area environment. Butner Property respectively requests the proposed full closure of Hubbard Street be revised to a partial closure that allows a right turn into Hubbard Street from the 40th Street, as drivers are able to visually see oncoming bicycle traffic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. The corporate retailers and ownership
became aware of multimodal in November 2025 when I reached out to each and every store manager as well as their corporate office. No one was aware. City outreach map clearly highlights and identifies these areas as East Bay Bridge Shopping Center and IKEA. The 27 acres comprised by East Bay Bridge is 27 acres. In addition, Pete's Coffee employs 200 employees. Metagenomics Biotech employs 137. Both of these companies and their landlords were also not notified. IKEA, as I mentioned, was not notified. These businesses, according to the Emeryville website, provide 54% of the total gross revenue that it goes into city coffers. 16% for sales tax, 14% for business license fees, 12% property tax, 12% hotel tax. How is it possible the city ignored these important, significant revenue streams? Make no mistake, city has no problem reaching out to businesses to pay for code violations. In your lobby, it's posted on the third bullet point down, dynamic and growing businesses, support for existing businesses and attracting new ones, proactive engagement with business community. City is not even following their own mission statement. Has council looked into negative consequences and ramifications should these retailers leave when they encounter a loss of revenue? Did the city ever provide an economic financial analysis? Did anyone ever prepare that, or just a transportation study? This major thoroughfare with the elimination of one lane will create chaos, road rage, and frustration.
Thank you for your time. You have been yielded 2 more minutes.
Thanks. International Boulevard has proven this design. And no one here, it's a 2017 design that was built, and it's just a disaster. Everyone recognizes that except for everybody on this council. So the traffic study that the city has in hand does not include Sutter Health with their 2,000 employees, plus the hundreds of daily car traffic that will be coming. The city is not looking forward. They're looking backward in a rear view mirror, looking to approve design that's 10 years old from 2017. 55 letters were received by the city with strong opposition against the project. All businesses pay property taxes into city coffers to keep the city afloat and pay for taxes. Currently, the state needs funding for MTC. If they do not receive the funding, they will need to close 10 BART stations. If you look at current ridership on EC Transit in Emeryville, it's a ghost town. Nobody is there. So why the city is even considering spending $34 million spend on a multimodal project is absurd. You really need to dig deeper. The bikers do not truly support the economy. Yes, we want to keep them safe, but they do not pay the significant tax dollars into the community. We are asking that the city please revisit this design, have better outreach going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Welcome.
Hi, citizen in Emeryville. I've seen this plan for about 15 years. I live off right turn on Emery, right off, go through the shopping center by Pack and Save and Nordstrom Rack. And at 4 o'clock to 6, you can't turn there, even now, because of the traffic. It's so congested. So when you cut that lane out, there will be nobody turning there, and you are going to have some serious road rage. I told them that 15 years ago, and then said, what was I going to do? I said, I'm not going to shop. I'm not going to go out at 5 or 6 and turn there. I'll go somewhere. I'll take Park or San Pablo, because I live here. I'll know every shortcut to get away. And when I would like people to ride bikes, let's put them on Park. I'd like them to be safe. Let's have them less cars. People already are crazy driving in 2 lanes on 40th. You guys, I think if you do this, you're just going to be chasing your tail, answering problems. I'm happy that it'll look nice. I'm happy for the art, but people will not be using that street to go shopping as much because it'll be a cluster.
Thank you for your comment. Any further public comments on this item? Seeing and hearing no further public comments on this item, I'm going on to the discussion section for this item. Council members, Vice Mayor.
Sure, if it's okay with you, I have a couple of questions that I have for staff based on some of the public comments. Do you mind if I go forward?
I will
with
allow
those?
that
Great.
since there has been a lot of public comments on this.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. So just a couple of questions, I think two themes. Ryan, I don't know if these will be for you, but maybe. My first one, I think, is for Chad and community development. One of the comments, some of the comments have touched on the Sutter project, and I think more generally economic development, specifically Sutter, given that it's one of our council's key priorities for the year. So Sutter was aware of this project, the existence of the 40th Street multimodal project, our plans to move forward with it throughout, before buying the land. Well, and since then they've been aware this won't be news to them.
It wouldn't be news to them. They've been informed. They're on our mailing list. I cannot speak to whether they knew before they bought the property in '25, but because I didn't have much contact with them then. But they've been informed since.
Sure. And if there are, as they do their full environmental impact report, which they're required to do, in which they'll pay the city to do on their behalf, if it turns out that there are mitigations needed based on the traffic study that they conduct, that will take into account, this project, and they would be responsible for covering the cost of that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then another theme that came up was why essentially this project isn't on Park Avenue. And so Ryan or maybe Mohammed, obviously part of the reason is that council's given you that direction over the last 8 years, but curious from your professional expertise, what the impact would be if we decided to shift the bike facility to from 40th Street to Park Avenue right now, and also more generally, why you might have suggested in the past, or why council might have decided in the past to put the bike facility as a two-way cycle track on the north side of 40th Street as opposed to any of the other options, including putting the bike facility on Park Avenue.
Yeah, so 40th Street's been identified, throughout the years on our general plan, through our active transportation plan. So it's been vetted through many city processes, through many advisory committees, and then additionally through our 40th Street design concept phases and through advisory committees and back through city council. So through many iterations and through many design directives, we've been told to proceed forward with a bike facility on 40th Street. But beyond that, it's just in our general plan and active transportation plan, 40th Street is our trunk line connector. It has these other features that these other side streets do not have. They're more neighborhood connectors, Park Avenue and these other connections, 45th Street, our bike boulevards and stuff like that. 40th Street makes these major connections to transit and to the other neighboring jurisdictions and their bike networks that some of our other neighborhood bike facilities do not make the same type of connections. So really, while these are great safe streets, on the side streets, 40th Street has many more functions that are just larger and connect to transit, connect to commercial destinations, connect to employment centers. And through the public vetting process, this has come in time and time again as being where to place the bike facility. So that's why we have it there. And then on top of that, all of our grant funding has shown this to be on 40th Street, and that is why we've scored so highly on a lot of our grants. So if we were to take 40th Street, the bike facility off 40th Street, that could sacrifice some of our outputs of our grants, and we don't know what that means for some of our grants. That could be relinquishing funds on some of these grants. It could be that we don't score as high on these grants and stuff like that. So what the repercussions of that could be. So yeah.
Any further questions of the staff or discussion on this item? Councilmember Mora?
I just wanted to thank everybody who came out tonight. I really appreciate the people coming out to engage with us. And also even even more people who emailed the council. Many of those responses were overwhelmingly positive in support of the project. But I do want to acknowledge the concerns that were raised tonight and earlier. I think with a large project of this scale, there are going to be details to be worked through. There are going to be trade-offs, especially when safety is concerned. And I really want to commend the city staff for engaging with the stakeholders during the outreach efforts and when the concerns were raised, and working with people to come up with solutions and continuing as we, minor details can still be worked out sometimes in the design process. But I do want to clarify, I mean, what this project does, it moves as many people as quickly as possible and as safely as possible through the streets. So I've reviewed the project documents, I've looked at the traffic studies, and I'm convinced that this project succeeds in this goal. I'm also convinced that current businesses and future developments will be well served by this investment in infrastructure. Sutter was brought up. Sutter in particular uses a lot of shuttles and emergency vehicles. Those will be able to use the transit lanes and not be snarled in the traffic that was discussed. So I'm actually convinced that we're actually setting ourselves up for success in the future. So with that, I'm happy to move approval of the staff recommendations pending any additional comments from my colleagues.
Councilmember Welch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to echo my colleagues' sentiments about thanking the public for their comments. This is a project for our community, and our community has expressed their concerns, and I understand there are concerns around traffic flow and parking, and those are always very important to address. The fact is, this corridor already serves so many different modes of transportation, and it's our responsibility to make sure that it's not just functional and safe for cars, but functional and safe for everyone. This redesign, it's based in data and best practices around safety that reduce collisions and improve overall movement for different modes of transportation. It supports our climate equity goals, and it does support transportation to local jobs and businesses. And I'm happy to see that as someone who, as another public commenter mentioned, I don't feel safe going that route walking. I would love to be able to just walk the entire corridor and enjoy being outside in my community. And I understand that change can be uncomfortable, but this is such a necessary investment for safety for our community. On a personal level, I had the wonderful opportunity to celebrate my son's birthdays this Saturday. They both have the same birthday. I did not do that on purpose. It just happened. But they turned 6 and 11. And the leading cause of death for African American children, unintended injury, is traffic violence, being hit by a car. And I think about that when I think about as they grow up, wanting to be more independent and being able to walk through their community. And when this project is done and they are going to be then 8 and 13, I will feel much safer with them exploring their community. And so with that, I would like to second Councilmember Moore's motion, pending other comments from you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other comments from my colleagues? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll second the comments that have been made by my colleagues and commend staff, Ryan, Mohammed, your whole teams, but really everyone from City Manager's Office, the City Attorney's Office, Community Development, everyone on down. This is a big effort, and to have this be 94% covered by outside funding sources is a big deal. It doesn't happen often for these kinds of projects. So kudos to you, and I think that reflects, Ryan, as you mentioned, that you all did a great job, I'm sure, in our grant applications, but it is the nature of this corridor and the ambition of the project that we have that aligns with the broader values of our community. As Councilmember Welch, you mentioned, this is, I recognize all of the people in the room who don't agree with me and, who this change will be challenging. And you all know your businesses better than I do. I will say that there's plenty of evidence from other cities around the country, around the world, where you introduce safety improvements for cyclists, pedestrians, people taking transit. As Member Moore mentioned, that allows more people to use the street, and sales tax actually goes up when you introduce those improvements. So this is first and foremost a safety project. As Member Walsh mentioned, the reality of our current status quo is that people will get hit by cars, by drivers, whether they're biking or walking. It's happened, and someone will die. And the purpose of this improvement is to prevent that, so we can all sleep well at night knowing that our children are safe, our grandparents and parents can use the corridor in a safe manner. So I appreciate that, and I think that this is going to be a project that actually, as Member Moore mentioned, allows us to move forward and bring in more businesses, bring in more people who want to spend time in our community, and will be a net positive for our community. So I'm excited to support it. But Madam Mayor, I'll pass it back to you.
Any further comments? So I would like to first ask a question based on some of the comments that my colleagues have made. So thank you, Ryan, for being there to answer those questions. One of the questions that was asked was about Sutter being aware that this project was underway. And I just want to make sure that we understand that it is not up to Sutter to go ahead and do traffic studies. Is it true that we are supposed to consider reasonably foreseeable changes in travel demand along a corridor before considering everything or moving forward with the project?
So in our traffic analysis, we couldn't do a traffic analysis of Sutter even if we wanted to, because Sutter doesn't have a defined project. So CEQA requires us to look at reasonably foreseeable impacts. That's true, but Sutter doesn't have a defined project. So for us to do a Sutter analysis is sheer speculation at this time, or any time in the past before they were here. So when Sutter does apply, they will be responsible for preparing and funding their own traffic impact analysis at that time, if and when they submit. So the TIA that they do, that will analyze their impacts against the future baseline conditions, which includes our project. So our project will be part of their TIA.
But you've already indicated that Tokyo Central was not considered as a reasonably foreseeable change, correct?
So for Tokyo Central, we did the existing retail uses that were at that site, but at Tokyo Central, and Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were approved through an FDP. So
correct.
Yeah. So at that time, the tenant was not known as we were doing our traffic study. So in the similar vein, we could not speculate who was going to be moving in. We couldn't guess on the trips volumes or anything like that of who was going to be coming in for our traffic volume. So, and I think Tokyo Central didn't file their building permit until 2024 after we finished our study. So we could not include them in our study. So we did do the study using the existing sites that were there, which included Old Navy, Elephant Bar, and the other retail sites that were at the former site.
Between 2024 and now, there was no reason you could not do an updated traffic study, correct?
That is correct, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. So given the fact that there is clearly going to be other development in the city that has not been considered, and the primary one being Tokyo Central, and I understand that Sutter could be speculative at this time, but I think that it warrants at least some type of study. And I had requested this back in July 2025, that there should be updated traffic studies. So with regard to that, even though I understand the safety considerations, there have been a lot of people in this room who happen to live on 1440, who are disabled, and I think their safety is also of paramount importance. Two former mayors, one of whom sat on this council when this project was being considered, are in this room today and have discouraged the public from, or this council from moving forward with the project as is. I do not feel comfortable voting for this project as is. I feel there should be, at the minimum, updated studies, and at the maximum, alternatives like Park Avenue should be considered. Therefore, I am not going to be voting for this project, even though I appreciate all the work that staff has done. I think that there can be more work done with a project of this magnitude and this type of expense. I think that there could be savings. With that said, please take vote.
Councilmember Mora?
Aye.
Councilmember Pryforce is recused. Councilmember Welch? Aye. Vice Mayor Solomon?
Aye.
And Mayor Carr?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Moving on to the next item, we have department head reports. 12.1, announcement of commission committee vacancies. I believe you have a report on that.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Council members, I wanted to let you know that our annual recruitment for advisory bodies, we're opening that this Friday. It'll be open for 5 weeks through April 24th. This will be the annual recruitment, so there will be vacancies on every single advisory body with terms that are expiring June the 30th. As you know, you approved new designations on the Housing Committee, Public Art Committee, and the youth designation that we're going to try out as a pilot program on Parks and Rec Committee. We're heavily promoting those. I'm going to be attending the Healthy Families Festival at ECCL on the March 28th. I'm going to have a booth there and promote those. We've also added those designations to the application so that people can self-identify as to whether they fit one of those categories. And then I'm also reaching out to the principal at EUSD to help with the youth student designation and getting some applicants for that. So besides our normal outreach, those are the things that we're doing for the positions. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we need a public comment on that item. Okay. And we are moving on to future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items for tonight? Councilmember Pryforce.
I'd like to place on a future agenda item a study into adding land acknowledgement to our proceedings. And that'll be land acknowledgement of the Weechin and Ohlone history of the Shell Mound to our proceedings.
Is there any support for this item? Seeing no support for this item fails. Are there any other future agenda items? Councilmember Pryforce.
I'd like to also add to our proceedings the Pledge of Allegiance, discussion as to returning the Pledge of Allegiance to our council chambers, which I will demonstrate. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any support for this item? Seeing no support for this item fails. It is now 9:32 p.m. and I adjourn this meeting of the City Council.